Hey Swayers, it's your buddy, it's your pal. I'm Karnak. This is Serenity War Gaming and Explanations doing more Star Wars Armada. I hope you all enjoyed the game I played yesterday against Juliet Whiskey for the Anako Celebrity Deathmatch. That game lasted a long time. I don't think neither of us expected that game to go for so long, considering that we only had ships, we didn't have any squadrons. But that's one thing where that Vassal can sometimes slow down a little bit is because like the range check-in and the movements and all that, it takes longer to determine that sometimes on Vassal than it would take in real life. But we got through it. Fortunately, a little bit of a loss for me at the very last shot of the game. But if you want to know more, I suggest you go watch. There's lots of dice rolling, lots of explosions. I had a really great time participating in the Anaka tournament. Okay, we're going to look at Barriss Offee today, or Barriss Offee. Bar Coffee, Star Wars names, as we know, they're hard. All right, let's dive right in. So, Barriss is an officer upgrade for the Republic. How can you tell? If you look at the bottom left-hand corner of the card, you'll see the officer icon there. Opposite corner, you'll see their faction symbol, which is for the Republic, and their point cost, which is 6 points. So, Barriss can equip to any ship that has an officer seat, which all ships have an officer seat. I don't think we've ever seen a ship that hasn't had one yet. Barriss is also unique. You can only ever bring one Barriss in your fleet, and that's signified by the little dot or bullet point in front of their name. As I always do, I'm going to read through the card, then give a quick this is how it works, and then if you want to stick around after that for the more like intricate details or talking about the upgrade card uses, etc., stick around. Okay. While defending, after the attacker declares the defending hull zone, you may spend one redirect token. If you do, at the start of the resolve damage step, choose a different hull zone to be the defending hull zone for this attack. Okay, so Barriss, in a nutshell, what's accomplishing for you? When you declare the target attack, if you spend a redirect defense token, when they go to then say, I'm going to start throwing damage on the hull zone that I'm attacking, you can be like, nope, this is no longer the hull zone you're attacking. It is now, a different hull zone. Instead of the front, it's now the rear. Instead of the left, it's now the right. So essentially, it's just changing the hull zone that's going to be taking all that damage. As we can get into, there's some uses for that. It also kind of creates a few little unique interactions. But in a nutshell, that's what it's doing for you. The old hull zone is no longer taking the damage. The new selected hull zone is taking the damage. And that is how Barriss works. So now let's dive into the intricacies of this. Some folks have asked me, because of Barriss, when I spend the redirect defense token, because it's not in the spend defense token step, I can spend my redirect defense token again to discard it to actually do like an actual redirect effect. First of all, two things. One, no, because it's still while defending, and the while defending and spending defense tokens encompasses the entirety of the defense and or slash attack. So if you spend a token, you can't then respend that same token later. You still have to follow the rules of the rules reference guide. This card doesn't explicitly state that you override those rules. It has to clearly spell out that you can do that, and this is not doing that. So no, you can't spend the same defense token twice. Now, if you have two redirect defense tokens, yeah, you could spend one of Barriss and then the other one for its effect if you want. But then I guess I'm kind of like, why did you spend a redirect defense token to move the hull zones if you still want to move shields from one zone to another? I guess there are some cases for that where if you have like no shields on two sides of your ship and you're trying to put it all on the other side of your ship, I guess that's about the only use case I can think of. In which case, that's like you're in way more trouble than that if you're trying to do something like that. So the second part is, again, when you spend this redirect defense token, it doesn't happen until the resolve damage step. So it is at the start. And there's a question about, let's see here. What effect resolves first, Barriss Offee or critical effects? Barriss Offee does first because Barriss is at the start of the resolve damage step, and critical effects are the first step of the resolve damage step. So that's why Barriss would go first when interacting with critical effects. Okay. Another one I want to point out is how does Barriss work with Obi-Wan Kenobi? As I've mentioned before in my Obi-Wan Kenobi commander video, Kenobi only cares if a ready redirect token was spent. It doesn't care what it was spent for. So as long was it green when you spent it? Yes, okay, use Kenobi. So that can get a use with Barriss. Another thing I want to point out is that when you use Barriss's effect, you also do not get the standard redirect effect. I've seen a player too be like, oh, I use Barriss, and now I'm also going to redirect shields. It's like, no, no, no. According to effects use and timing, you choose one effect that you're doing when you spend that token, again, unless the card specifically states otherwise. So you're choosing, it's just like with expert shield techs. Are you going to choose the expert shield tech effect, or are you going to choose the normal redirect effect? Okay. Because spending the redirect defense token is an effect. You have to choose what you're doing with it if you have other options to do different things with it. All right. What are some other things? Let's talk about Mon Carin. How does Mon Carin interact with Barriss Offee? I've seen players be like, oh, no, I can still spend a second defense token, even after Mon Carin. And no, that's not the case. Mon Carin is essentially rectoactive because, as a defender, you did spend a defense token. So Mon Carin, as it says here, if Barriss Offee was resolved in a brace, or in her case, a redirect, defense token was spent by the defender. The defender now cannot spend any additional defense tokens for this attack. So keep that in mind, that if they've got Mon Carin, and you spend that redirect token first thing, and they decide to resolve Mon Carin against your ship, you will not be able to utilize spending any other defense tokens. Okay, what are some other Barriss things? How does Barriss and Salvo interact? Which hull zone is referenced to resolve Salvo? So Salvo would now use the new defending hull zone, but the attack would be the same. It's the same measurement. So it doesn't matter if the hull zone switched from the rear to the front. It's still using the exact same measurements and everything as before to make the salvo attack. Essentially, you can't negate salvo just by changing the hull zone around. Salvo doesn't care about that. What about superior positions? Say if I shoot the rear of a Venator and Barriss moves that hull zone from the rear to the front, do I still collect my victory token? And the answer to that is no. No. So the answer to that overall is no. So superior positions will resolve, and the attacking player may gain a victory token if the current defending hull zone is the rear hull zone when damage is suffered. So again, if Barriss moves that hull zone someplace else because it's before suffering damage, you will not be able to collect the superior positions defense token. So, all right, I think that covers all the FAQ and stuff that we have on Barriss. And before I get into like use cases and how I've seen Barriss used, I want to point out, some people ask me quite often, how do I remember all this stuff, or where to find it, or anything like that? And the answer is simple. I have a whole folder where I keep track of everything. I keep a lot of it in my brain, and I have a general idea of where I can go find the information or understand information. But if you're wanting a folder that just lists, what changes have been made to the tournament document, what's the written out form for the Sumo event if you don't have those cards in front of you, sector fleet, or again, any changes made to the AMG rules reference guide. I have a Google document here that quickly you can search, and everything that's hyperlinked in blue is like the new rule. So you can quickly find out something very fast, especially for like a lot of the new clarifications and things. You come down here, you'll see that it's all down here. And that's how I'm able to quickly, because as you know, the AMG forums, it's so hard just to do a search on it. So like for on here, it's like, oh, I know Hera had a rules update. So if I just type in Hera on here, okay, boom, right here, Hera X-Wing just popped right up. So I don't have to spend forever trying to find resources. All right, let's get back into Barriss. So Barriss, what uses do you have of Barriss? It seems like it works great with Obi-Wan, and it does, but again, Obi-Wan is kind of like a one-trick pony. Yeah, unless you have the ability to like refresh constantly defense tokens, but Obi doesn't have that capability. Luminara does. Well, what about Luminara and Barriss? And it's like, yeah, you could. Luminara and Barriss kind of do seem to go hand in hand, but again, Barriss it's not really damage mitigation. You're still suffering all that damage. Eventually, you're gonna run out of shields. So that's one reason I don't like Barriss. The officer slot for Gar is so hotly contested. You know, they have great commanders. Even if you're just taking clone navigation officer, I feel like that in most cases is a better use than Barriss. I mean, Aligalia is already just like top tier for half the price. You don't. It's just part of the process of spending defense tokens. You can kind of shift shields around. Um, yeah, I don't get a whole lot of use out of Barriss. I feel like I just feel like that there's other officers I would prefer to utilize. But if I had to use Barriss, obviously like on a Venator or an Acclimator, I really don't see a whole lot of use on like a Consular or even the Peltas. Maybe on a Victory. Maybe you can put them on a Victory. I don't know. But I usually am wanting different officers. So for uses, Obi-Wan and really Luminara are your two best bet for commanders. The upgrade doesn't really synergize with the other commanders, again, unless you're just specifically trying to, maybe you're running two Venators and you already have Tranquility on one and you don't want Resolute on the other one. Then I can maybe see Barriss on like your secondary Venator. By the way, Tranquility should always be on like your flagship. If you've got a flagship Venator, Tranquility is absolutely the upgrade card you should have on there. That card, the game I fought last night, Venator Tranquility will never, it should not die with any shields on it. It should always be zero shields all the way around, and it just makes it so tanky. It's just unbelievable. But for Barriss, I like to see Barriss on acclimators. If I tend to run Barriss is on acclimators. If I already have it kitted out for, let's say, uh, squadron operations. But again, it still relies on being able to spend the redirect token. Oh no, that's right, because it's before, it's at the start. It's while defending the declaration. Oh, that's one thing I wanted to point up. So yeah, so as soon as you are declared the target of the attack, you can be like, oh, I'm going to spend this redirect token. So you can't spend it in the spend defense token step and say you're trying to do Barriss. Not able to do that. It's only as soon as you're told you are the target of attack. And again, just as a reference, once an attacker declares that you are a target of attack, um, there's no takebacks unless you allow them to. In which case, if you spent that redirect token, obviously you can refresh it. There's been in the past when this card first came out, people were like, no, I declared my attack and now I'm taking it back, but you still have to spend your defense token. And like, that was such a dumb argument, and I'm so glad that Atomic Mass Games was like, okay, well, flip it back on you. If you declared your attack, which you have the ability to pre-measure at any time, you should know what you're doing and no takebacks anymore. So no more takebacks, which I agree with that. Um, yeah, it's just hard. I just feel like this upgrade card is really in conflict. It seems like they're better served on another ship that the Republic doesn't have access to. Hopefully, maybe in the future, we could see something that better synergizes. But for right now, for 6 points, and again, you still have to spend a defense token. Best taken with Obi-Wan Kenobi or Luminara. And again, if you really just want like a super beefy Venator, I guess you could do Tranquility and Barriss. But I would rather just take Tranquility and Aligali, honestly, my personal opinion. I don't want to be forced to spend defense tokens to make stuff work. So, all right, that's all I have for today. Of course, let me know where you think Barriss is useful, any situations where maybe it saved you a game or something like that. But let me know in the comments. Appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you next time. Quick shout out to the sponsors of the channel. Firstly, to Otherworld Events. Regardless if you're needing assistance for event managing, planning, organizing, how to even start, or just need specific ideas for what it is you're doing that you already have a plan for, Otherworld Events can help you out. Second, to Admiral Tater Ship Shop. Admiral Tater Ship Shop, while specializing in Star Wars Armada miniature items, also has X-Wing and Legion items. If you're looking to really get some great looking acrylics on the table, whether it be holders for your upgrade cards or tokens or acrylic tokens, and most importantly, you just want a perfect range ruler with no flaws or errors in it that's going to give you exact measurements every time, highly recommend Admiral Tater. It's the range rulers I use at tournaments. I know they're cut perfectly, they're going to range perfectly, and I'm going to get that best measurement every single time. Also, just look at everything they have available.